what your real estate business might be worth, I'll tell you that very few real estate agents ever think that way. In fact, we've been trained in the industry to consider more about kind of what our business is producing, right? Think about it in terms of transactions, GCI. Well, I'll tell you, that thought process alone isn't a great one because it tells you that there's no enterprise value outside of the fact of you actually working day to day, which means you don't actually have a business, you have a job. And so I know that can be kind of a hard pill to swallow at times, but the reality is this: you're actually not as far away as you might think from actually having a business. And oftentimes, when we begin to consider that it might be just a matter of having in our minds what our business is worth and knowing a few key levers that we can pull to make not just our production go up, but the value of our business go up, everything starts to change. So on today's episode of the Think Bigger Real Estate podcast, I'm going solo today, and we're going to talk about business valuation. I'm going to share with you a calculator that we built that's going to be wildly transformative to the way that you think about your business. So it's going to be a great episode. All right, with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. Again, I'm your host, Justin Stoddard. I'm excited to be with you today to talk again about real estate business valuation. Now, I know very few people have successfully sold their real estate business, and actually only one of them actually got a valuation on their business. In other words, it's kind of more just a referral arrangement, which I'm super grateful to my friend Nick Crowder, who authored the book, The Golden Handoff, which creates a more structured system in place for that referral arrangement. And I want you to consider of what it might look like for you to even go beyond that. Instead of just having an arrangement for a period of time, what if you were actually to have an arrangement for to have somebody buy your business for actually an amount, for a guaranteed amount that you would get paid out based on the value of your business. Now, in order for anybody to go into that kind of arrangement, they're going to have some level of confidence that your business isn't just a lead list. And that might be a good lead in for me to talk about what makes a good business valuation. In fact, let me just do this. Let me pull up what our calculator looks like. And I'm excited to share this with you. For those of you that just listen to the podcast, you want to go actually find this on YouTube as well, because this will, I think, really be helpful for you to understand. So you'll notice here that the output, once you put in the different variables, that you actually come to the conclusion of having your current estimated value, which is a range, and then also an optimized potential estimated value. In other words, what your business could be worth. So I share that because one of the things that gets your business to be a higher valuation is the fact that you don't have it all just a lead list. And that's actually one of the biggest complaints that I've found is when people buy what they think is a business and it's really just a prospecting list, which, by the way, who wants to pay for work to go do where you've got to generate all new relationships yourself, right? So as far as how much of your business comes from prospecting, how much of your business comes from advertising, that matters. And again, as I've talked to people who have tried to purchase a business and have essentially done it successfully, but it ended up being a bit of a flop, essentially had that. They bought what was somebody's prospecting list. They purchased what was somebody's internet lead list. In other words, there were no relationships. There was no trust being transferred. It was simply and solely a little bit of blue sky, right? Or a lot of bit of blue sky. And so when it comes to actually having confidence that you're purchasing a business that's worth anything, a true business valuation is important. Now, here's why this is maybe so important right now, is that 60% of all real estate agents are over the age of 60. Okay, no, sorry, I said that wrong. 34% of all real estate agents are over the age of 60. Okay, I want you to internalize that. 1 in 3 real estate agents are over the age of 60. In other words, they're at retirement age, right? And I think I would argue that most of them are not prepared to retire. But here's another interesting statistic is that 60% of all the business is handled by that same group of agents. So if you're a younger agent and you're wanting to grow, you're probably thinking to yourself, man, I would love to step into a quarter century of someone else's work rather than have to spend the next quarter century of my own life recreating it, right? But how do you do that, right? Because if you, by the way, if you just do a referral arrangement, the reality is that person who sold you the business doesn't have a lot of incentive to stay and work to get those relationships transferred, right? And by the way, you don't have a ton of incentive more importantly, probably, to really get business from those relationships versus your own, especially if they're not that warm, right? It's like, okay, well, could I give myself a 25% raise by generating the business on my own versus from their database? Yeah, you could. And so the way that this really works and works the best, and by the way, let me give you some context. My business partner, Don Yoakum, who's brilliant, by the way, who helped actually put it was his genius behind this calculator. He put behind him this incredible experience. So just most recently, he put together a book of business that someone paid $500,000 for. Now, this wasn't just in, I'll pay you referral fees once they close. It was actually an agreed upon $500,000. We're going to agree to pay that out, number one. And number two, they paid it off in 18 months. 18 months, $500,000 went to the retiring agent. Now, the cool thing is that agent actually didn't retire. What they did is they maintain a small database of their favorite people, and that particular group of people he continues to service. Right now, he can continue to prospect and do other things as well. And he's, by the way, on the team of the agent to whom he sold the business to. So there's some clues. Is that if you're an agent and you're like, man, I would love to retire, but I don't think I can right now. Why? Because I don't have enough money to get me through the end of my life. So I just can't cold turkey be done. Well, that's where like what we call a partial handoff, or what Nick Crowder calls a partial handoff, works really well, right? Is that you can actually sell part of your business to somebody else and maintain the rest. And if you're the agent who's acquiring that business, guess what? You have that person join your team to where you continue to earn an override even on that business. Now it works out really well because those relationships will likely transfer to a higher level because now you're actually working on the same team. You can do client events and invite people to stuff to where that becomes a really nice transfer. So back to the business valuation. Here are some things to keep in mind. If you're at the early stage of your career or even a later stage of your career, the most valuable form of business, in other words, the business that values the highest, is number one, that business that comes from sphere of influence, past clients, like actual relationships. Okay, so the higher the percentage of that, the better. Okay, number one. Number two, the least amount of business possible that comes from advertising spend or prospecting, also the better. Also, the more that you actually have tenure in the business, the better as well, because you have more time cultivating these relationships. Okay, and of course, the bigger the database, the better, right? Because it just ensures that you've got a bigger sample pool to pull that business from. So again, I'm here to change your mind because again, if you're feel like you're stuck in your business and you kind of want to be done, but you're not done collecting money yet, but you're kind of done working for it, this could be a perfect situation for you, number one. Number two, for those of you who, again, want to take a quantum leap in your business, again, you could take a decade yourself, 2 decades to build this out yourself, or you could look around your office and in transactions that you're currently working with for people to have a little bit of silver hair and say, hey, what's your exit strategy? As someone who's a little further down the road than me, what's your plan, right? Have you thought about exiting the business at some point? And by the way, if so, I like the way that you work. We work very similarly. Let me know if you'd ever be interested in selling your book of business over a period of time for an agreed upon amount. I'd be open to that, right? If you are a real estate agent who wants to acquire a book of business, that would be a really easy conversation to have, right? Because you compliment them based on their client experience, how they work. I think we work similarly. Essentially, what you're saying also at the same time is that you and I work very much alike, right? In other words, I would take similar care of your clients as you've taken care of them. And again, if they're just a prospecting engine, they're just a big lead gen engine, it's not going to be a good option for you. Okay, it's not going to be a good option for you. So don't go looking to buy those kinds of businesses. And if it's not too late, don't go looking to buy one of those business, or don't look to become or grow a business like that, unless you're just interested in creating a high producing job. And if so, that's okay, right? As long as you're doing something with that extra money on the outside to actually create some sort of residual income, that can work for you as well. But if you actually want to have enterprise value that's worth something, again, lower the prospecting, lower the advertising, increase the amount of businesses coming from relationships, because those will actually transfer, right? Now, for those of you that are like, boy, I'm super curious based on what you showed me, Justin, I'm just curious to know what my valuation might be. I'm going to put in the show notes a link to our calculator. There you're going to be asked, again, 5 questions, between 5 and 7 questions that you'll know the answer to, and it will give you two numbers. Again, number one, this is the estimated value of your business right now. And then based on some other criteria, here's what we believe your business could be with pulling an additional lever or two. That, by the way, is more, it's less about you doing more work and more just you connecting to the right services that will help to extract more opportunities from your database. So anyway, you learn more about that as you go through. I don't want to overwhelm you today. I just want to plant that seed in your head that it could be a really big opportunity for you just to simply have that paradigm shift, start to have conversations with the agents who want to retire, or be that agent that wants to retire. There's some ways that you can, again, truly optimize the value of your business that will take you very, very little time, but will make a world of difference at this stage of your career, whatever that may be. So I appreciate you tuning in to today's episode of the Think Bigger Real Estate podcast. My biggest aim is to help you to create a successful business and a significant life. And I believe that having a business, a value put on your business, only spurs that forward, is only a great catalyst to having that become a reality. So I appreciate you tuning in, and I look forward to catching you on the next episode. And in the meantime, I encourage you to go think bigger. Talk soon, everybody.